When you're in prison and you're locked in your cell and you're looking outside and you're like, what do I need to do to change my life? It's all about mindset, because without mindset, I wouldn't have anything that I have now. Hi, I'm Scotty Boyce. I was incarcerated at 18 for second-degree burglary. I grew up in multiple different states. My mom was a traveling electrician, and she moved around the countryside, and then she would leave me sometimes with my family in Muscatine. And my dad, he was sort of a troublemaker. He was in and out of prison my whole life, so I didn't really see him much. Since my mom was working a lot, I had to do everything on my own. I pretty much raised myself as, the best I could. Growing up without a father figure and my dad in and out of prison, and I guess I didn't have the guidance that I feel like the dad role plays. Moms can only do so much. But she tried. She did the best she could. Watching my mom try to make ends meet, it was a struggle growing up, and then I decided when I was 14 that I needed to get a job. And I was still going to school. And then when I was 16, I figured I'm going to drop out of school and just work full time. I was fighting a lot. I was taking after my dad and seeing his actions, seeing the way he did stuff, and then I did stuff, and then I felt like I was going to eventually go to jail or prison. Prior to when I dropped out of high school, I met this woman that I fell in love with, to be honest. Great girl, met her in high school. We dated for probably 3 years, and then we ended up moving in together. We rented the basement of her aunt's house. That's where our altercation happened, and I got in trouble and went to prison. I was working and I got off early, and I showed up there, and it wasn't my truck in the driveway, so I knew something was up. So I looked in the windows of the house. I seen that she was cheating on me. I tried getting in. I tried getting them to let me in. They wouldn't let me in, so I picked the door lock and got in myself. I ended up assaulting him and assaulted her, acting out of rage. She had called the cops. There was a warrant out for my arrest, and I ended up getting arrested. I was charged with first-degree robbery, first-degree burglary, and kidnapping. I ended up taking a deal of second-degree burglary. It's a 10-year sentence. My mind is going 120 miles an hour. I mean, I'm in there with, murderers, and, I had no idea what prison was going to be like. 18 years old, I was nervous. I didn't know what to think. I knew that my dad was in prison. I just didn't know what prison. And I hadn't seen him for a few years. When I showed up, there was this guy with a bald head and big beard, and I didn't know if I recognized him. There's no way. There's no possible way. But I did recognize him, and he turned around and he's like, "Son?" And I was like, "Dad?" And we both started crying. I think we probably talked the first 24 hours I was in there. I don't think either one of us were quiet. The emotions going through my head. I wasn't really mad at my dad, or I didn't have any hate or anything for him, That's just the life that he chose, I guess we both kind of thought it was pretty sad that we both had to end up in prison to actually spend quality time together. We probably walked around outside in the yard 100 miles talking about life, because we've never done that. So that was our first time ever doing that. It did end up being a positive experience seeing my dad in prison, because my dad is a big motivator too. He wants what's best for me, you know. So he told me, I hope you learn from your mistakes. You know, I hope you take full responsibility for your actions and your way of thinking changes. Going into prison, I had no structure. I was wild. I was a kid. I was wild. I feel like going to prison and having that structure, discipline, changed me for the better.
Being a part of someone's process of evolving, seeing them start to make different choices and recognize the success of their behaviors is incredibly rewarding. I would say it's the best part of the job.
Well, hello. How are you? Good.
I met Scotty
How are you?
in, let's see, July of 2012. You know, it's always interesting to me when I get someone that young coming out of prison. Because I think about how many of them go in and they haven't even learned how to be an adult yet. The things that really stood out to me about him was his positive attitude. He came in with a smile, and you know, that's not always the case. So many times they look at us as the enemy. You know, this person's here to lock me up. You know, they're gonna do what they can to send me back. But he came in open, positive, and willing to have a good conversation. I was able to get to know him a little bit better, obviously, and figure out what was important to him.
Stacy was real encouraging. She was great. She really didn't treat me like she was my parole officer. It was more like I was a human, like I was just like her. You know, I don't think she was here because it's just her job. I think she genuinely cared. So I think that really took a big toll on me, is how supportive she was. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to catch you doing something wrong. I don't think she ever said that. It was more like, hey, I want you to do the right thing. Let's do it together. Let's get you going.
You know, I think the general public has a lot of misconceptions about what we do, about people who are incarcerated and then are on supervision. I think, you know, for a very long time, we were looked at as the enforcers, punishment. You know, our job is to just catch somebody and lock them up. That's not what we do. We're trying to be a resource, be support, help them to address issues that have continued to cause them problems in their lives. Helping them, you know, take those steps, because sometimes that first step can be the hardest. You know, we are here to see them succeed. The goal is to help somebody get on their feet and ultimately complete supervision.
You're a whole new person when you get out of prison. You have every opportunity to make your life different from the past. So that was my goal. That was my mindset. And Stacy was on board. She was super cool, super motivating. I had spoke with her a few times about starting my own business, because at the time I felt like, well, I wasn't going to get along with people. People see that, you know, just got out of prison written on my forehead, which is not true, but that's what you think when you get out of prison. So I wanted to start my own business. You know, I had to thrive. I was young, I was strong, I was ready to go, you know, start a whole new life.
He had some ideas about what he wanted to do, and you know, I tried to impress upon him that, you know, there was nothing that could hold him back, that if he wanted to pursue something, sky's the limit. You know, there are steps you're gonna have to take. It's not gonna come as quickly as you want them to, but there are There's nothing that you can't do if you put your mind to it. And I could see right away he was very determined.
This kind of work, at first, I was kind of nervous because people would say, "Oh yeah, I left my garage open. Can you go into my house? My vehicle's in my garage. Do what you need to do." I was like, "Whoa, are you sure?" Like, I know it's been a while since I was in trouble, a long time ago, but it kind of gave me that feeling like, well, this client trusts me. So, I don't know. It made me feel amazing. You think back to where I was and where I'm at, and holy cow, I would have never imagined, So trust is a huge thing, and I like taking on that responsibility.
So I hope that people can take away from Scotty's story that you don't have to be defined by a few poor choices in your life, that you don't have to stay stuck and continue engaging in the same behaviors that are taking you places you don't want to go, that Scotty didn't allow that to hold him down. His choices came with consequences. And, when he said going to prison was probably the best thing that happened to him, it's what he needed, he used that opportunity to do some soul diving, some deep thinking about, what am I doing? Where am I at? And instead of allowing that vicious cycle to continue of, I'm never going to get out of this, nothing's ever going to change, people are always going to judge me, he used that instead to motivate him to say, well, it might be hard. People may still judge me. I might run into some barriers. And I can still do this. He's living life, and he's not making the choices that took him to prison before. He's got a lot of things. He seems very fulfilled, and that's awesome to see. That's why you stay in this job this long, is recognizing somebody's success, seeing their ability and willingness to change, and the outcome is great.
Proud moments in my life are when I had finished parole, starting the business. Becoming a dad was probably another best thing that's ever happened to me. My kid's my world. Seeing my dad not really there for me as much as he should have been. I didn't, I would never do that to my kids. So I wanted my kids to have a better life and understanding of life. Watching my kids succeed, seeing them happy is probably my biggest thing. When my kids smile and are happy, I'm happy. When you're young, if you do get in trouble, if you do go to prison, if you're on parole, probation, if you're in rehab, whatever your scenario may be, because everybody's story is different, your life's not over. I mean, you can change. You just have to have the drive to want to change. I think what changed my mindset, I don't know, it's the people around you, the motivators that help you, and you see other people being successful. What are they doing? I think is what made me change my, give me the mindset, like, I need to be successful. I need to change my ways of thinking. I need to do better, not only for me, but for everybody around me. Because nobody's going to want to hang out with somebody that wants to fight. Nobody's going to hang out with somebody that wants to steal, or that does drugs, or that, does this, that, the other. No one's going to want that. But the people that I want to hang out with, they're all successful, like-minded, positive attitudes, caring. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. I knew I wanted to be like them. I feel like people can change, and I feel like, my biggest thing was I changed. My whole life changed. I am proud of myself. I'm still chasing. I'm still going up. I haven't made it to the top yet, so I'm still going.